I am restoring a Peugeot 49cc engine. It's actually BBV is the name of the engine. Now, I haven't been able to source an engine because when I got this engine, somebody else had taken it apart and there's damage to that head there. This is broken off here, and there was a fin broken off. I wouldn't mind the fin so much, but this part here being broken off renders it useless. And these are the other parts that came off. They seem to be all okay. The conrod is good, there's no play in it. These plastic balls, they all came out of that unit there. So I'll have to do a bit of research on that. That's the piston that was in it, and that's the condition it was in, and the carburetor. Now, what I did then was, because there's so many damaged pieces, I decided to buy an engine. I've been looking for about 6 or 8 months, and I haven't been able to come across a BBV engine. So I did come across another Peugeot engine. It's a 49cc, it's a BB1. So I'm hoping that, and they look to be similar as that, and the head looks to be the same, the exhaust pipe would be the same, the fixings are different. Okay, so I'm hoping that when I take this apart I'll be able to use the original body and rebuild it. I've got a more complete carburetor on this one as well, and there's compression in it, so I'm hoping that all will go well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to strip this engine to get the parts that I need to rebuild the BBV. So hopefully it'll go well, and that what I paid €99 for plus shipping will serve to rebuild it. This is not for myself, this is for somebody that asked me to rebuild it. So hopefully all will go well. So I'm going to start taking this one apart now by taking off the top head and the carburetor and stuff. So I'll video it as I go along. Taking off the bracket there that holds this in place. It was sitting there, and this was attached on there like so, the other way around, like that. And I've got to take this off because the bolts that are coming out won't come out to get this side off. They're actually too long, so this has to be taken off for me to do that. So that's the next procedure. I might try and take off the big bolt that's holding that in place there as well. I've just taken off the carburetor there. I loosened that bolt and I'm just winding it off, put it into a box. Now I can take off this this part of it. That's that piece coming off there now that attaches to the engine. There's a gasket there. I'll try and save it if I can, but more than likely it should be possible to get a gasket set for it. I've just gone away from working down here at the moment and taking that off. I want to lighten the engine up by taking off all this up here and the exhaust pipe before I tackle that there. Right, I managed to get the gasket off and it's in good nick, so we'll be able to reuse it. And I'm putting them all together into one place. The next thing I'm going to tackle now is the head itself and take that off. Right, that's the first one. I took off the 2 nuts, and that's one of the holding brackets taken off there now. I must tackle the other one, but for some reason there's a square nut and there's a hexagon nut. on them, so I'll tackle that now next. Right, that's the second holding bracket coming off there now. At least I think it's coming off. And the head is lifting up very easily. So thank God there's no damage to this one, so I'll be able to use it. And the piston is going up and down, so that's a good thing as well. Now that's the exhaust pipe after separating there. It's kind of badly bent, so doesn't look like the exhaust pipe is reusable, but maybe it will be, we'll see. Now the head is coming up easy enough, and it all looks good inside there, so that's another bonus. The gasket is broken alright, but I'm not sure. I think there might be two gaskets there. So see, dropping it and nearly breaking it. Right. Right, next thing to do is to take off the piston. Before I took off the piston, or I take off the piston, I took off the bolts as well, just to make it easier, and strip everything completely. Piston now next. I'm just after taking off this nut here, which holds on the rotor, and it looks like there may be a Woodruff key in this as well, like there is in an NSU Quickly. So I have to see if I have the pullers to attach to that there. I'm not sure if I have. Now I've just managed to loosen this nut here. There's a kind of a washer there inside it that's bent up to stop it from loosening, so I've flattened that out and managed to get it off. It's a 17mm spanner, and inside that is that special washer. The tabs, you bend them up to keep the nut from opening. Inside that is this disc. It sits on there's two little pins on it there that sit into these grooves here, like so. So that's that. I'm not sure now if this will come off. It should do, I would say. It doesn't look as if there's anything else I need to take off, so I'll tap it with a rubber mallet and see if I can get it off. Now I finally got that wheel off, and the reason it wouldn't come off is because someone damaged it on both sides and it was stuck. So I just noticed that there's a bit of damage in there now as well, so I'm probably going to have to replace a part there that I didn't want to replace, but they're the joys of it. There's a washer and special thing, and I think this should probably come out with a bit of prizing. Yeah, there's some sort of a spring on it there, so I'll try and get that out there now. I need two hands to do it. That unit is out of breaking there, so I'm going to have to replace it because I had to really force it to get it off. So this is looks like some sort of a clutch plate, and it has a spring unit going around it, springy. I think this plate will come out as well. Yeah, that goes like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these ball bearings. And I know now that I have to undo these two nuts here to get the clutch mechanism off. They're both broken, so I'm going to have to buy two of those whenever I'm going to get them. Now that's that unit coming off there. I took off the two nuts and the shake proof washers. There they are. Put them all in a box now in a minute, and this piece comes off. Right, I must take off the two of these. Okay, now I think to get this off, I've seen a video where you have to use pullers, one of these type, so I'll try and get that off next. Just loosen this. It looks like a grease nipple, but it's pretty bashed, so I've taken that out. Yeah, that's what it is, a grease nipple. So now I can prise that off. I put the pullers on that there now, and I'm after loosening it, and it's after coming out. And this unit comes out then. That has roller bearings inside in it. They look to be okay. So that's that. What's this? Another washer with a little slit on it there, turned upwards like that, so I must remember that. And now I can take off this this unit here, and I can take off that cover casing there as well. So I need the pullers for this to get it off. The ones that I have done seem to fit it, so I'll have to try something else to get it out, and we'll see where we go from there. I think I can take off that side casing there now. Now the pullers is after coming. It's an M20 by 1. And I've put it on there, and you tighten down this nut here, and it pulls the rotor off then, so you can pull it off. So that's it. It's a simple little thing to get off, but if you don't have the correct pullers, you're in serious trouble. So I'll put that away now and give it a clean up. Right, there are 3 screws to take out. One there, one there, and there was one somewhere else as well. Anyway, there was 3 of them. There are the other 2 there. So that lifts off now, off of the engine. So it's another bit done. Now I managed to separate the crankshaft from the engine parts themselves. I've just been soaking them overnight just to clean them off, so they've turned out pretty good, just to give them a quick clean. I've also cleaned off the BBV engine casings, which is the engine that I'm actually rebuilding. And what I have to decide is whether I'm going to use the BB1 casing. The crankshafts are slightly different. This is the crankshaft from the BBV, and this is the crankshaft from the BB1. Now they're roughly the same size at that side, but there is a slight difference at this side. This is the one out of the BB1. So Whether that would affect the pulley on the side for driving the back wheel, I'm not sure, but it'll come out in the wash, I suppose, eventually anyway. Now on the BBV engine, on the right hand side there was a fibery kind of a washer that goes in there, the seal that goes in there, there's a very thin washer that goes in there, and a 6203 bearing that goes in there. So I'm assuming that this is the same, but I won't know until I take it apart. On this side here there's just an oil seal goes in there, there's a similar washer that goes in there, and a bearing that goes in there. So I'm assuming that the BB1 engine is going to be the same. Now I've just taken the BB1 casings apart, and it's the same. There's a little fibre washer that goes way inside there, the oil seal goes there, this washer, and a 6203 bearing. And the same as the BBV engine, this BB1 is an oil seal, washer, and a 6204 bearing. So I must clean them all up. So this engine is the exact same as this one, and the only difference between a BBV and a BB1 is that this section here, which takes the dynamo, is actually attached to the engine section. There are two screws that go in there and there to put the casing on. What do they do with it? It's here. Here it is. That goes on there like so, with the two screws. So I just have to check the dimensions of them now to see if they're the same. Just checking the dimensions there now. This is the BBV engine, and it's about 59 millimeters, and this is the BB1, which is it's about 60 mil, I suppose. It's near enough the same. So from that point of view, I would be able to use this section. Well, I actually can't use it on this engine. I want to reuse this engine because of the fixing, the way it was attached to the bike. There are attachments for this similar to that, but I'm actually going to use this one, which was the original one of the engine. Now I'm after cleaning up all the parts for the BBV engine, and I also cleaned up the BB1, which is here. That's the BB1. But that uses brackets to hold it in place, whereas the BBV is part of the main frame of the engine for holding it onto the bike. There's a connection there. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the whole thing back together. This is the BB1 crankshaft, and this is the guard for the belt. I'm just going to try and maybe straighten that a little bit more there. It was badly bent when I got it. This is the head and the barrel. The piston, I'm waiting on a piston to come. This is the bearing cage for there, and the pin. In this one, the dynamo is connected to this piece here, whereas in the BB1 you can actually take it apart, you can take it off, that comes off, but it won't go on to the one there because it's all one unit. Right, so I've fixed up the clutch. I think this is a clutch. I've never done one of these engines, but when I took it apart, these things were broken, which are the clutch plates, and they were broken because this thing had been very seriously dented. There was a fierce dent there, and there was a big dent there. So in actual fact, it wouldn't come off. So as it turns out, they were broken. So I bought new ones, and I've replaced them inside there. They're held in place here by these two nuts that goes down over them, and then all this clutch mechanism goes in there. So that's that, and I'm waiting on gaskets, I'm waiting on bearings, I'm waiting on seals, and once they come I'll be able to put it all back together. Now this is I'm going putting it back together, the BBV engine, and it'll be a combination of some BBV parts and some BB1 parts, because the one section of it, this piece in particular, I couldn't get it apart, so I haven't been able to replace it. So I'm going to put this clutch mechanism on. That's run by the belt, and there are all the component parts for it. I had to get a new cover because I couldn't straighten it enough to get it round. So I've had to buy one, and I've had to cut out this to match that, so that these things can go in. This is the carburetor and air hose that has to go onto it. The crankshaft with the new needle bearing, the pin. I'm waiting on the piston, that still hasn't come. This is a decompressing lever that goes on the head. I don't have the head down there with the pieces. And this is the head and the barrel. That piece goes in there for, it's a decompression lever. So the gaskets have come and the bearings, seals, so I can start putting it back together now. The exhaust pipe is cleaned. There is another cover that goes on over this, but I wasn't given it when I was given the engine to restore it. So this is the cover for the belt that I straightened. I must give it another bit of a tapping just to see if I can get it a bit straighter. So that's it. I'm going to start now by putting in here I'm going to put in the oil seal in here, like so. There's a washer that goes in then after that, and then the bearing, so I'm going to have to heat it up to put the bearing in. Same on this one here, which is the main section. There's a fibre washer first, then the oil seal, a washer, and a 6203 bearing. The other one is the 6204. So I'm going to start now on that and put in those two items first. Now I'm putting in this, it's a kind of a fibre washer that goes in there. Like so. The oil seal goes in next. And it goes in like so. Yep. I'll just get it into place there with my two hands. Now I have the fibre washer installed and the oil seal. The next thing is the washer, which I was forgetting before I put in the 6203 bearing. So that goes in next, and I'll give it a bit of a heat with a heat gun. Now I'll tap it down gently into place using one of my sockets. That's the new 6203 bearing now in place. So now I can move on to the other one, which is a 6204 bearing. An oil seal first, washer, and a 6204 bearing. That's the oil seal in place now. Next thing to put in is the washer. Like so. And a 6204 bearing, and I'll actually heat that up now as well and tap it down into place very gently. So I'm putting on a gasket sealer there first, and then the gasket afterwards. Like so. I must put mastic or gasket sealer here now as well, but I must put in the crankshaft first. So this is the side that goes in here, like so. And I'll just put a small bit of lubrication on that now for it to go in easy. Now that's the crankshaft in. And now I can put gasket sealer on this and put it on. So that's the other side there. Now I'm just slotting it into place, making sure the screws are reasonably in the right place. So I'll get that into place there now. I won't be able to use my hand, or one hand, I'll have to use both hands. Right, that's it down in place now. I must put on the belt guard next. I straightened it as best I could there. So it goes on there, like so, and then I can tighten up the bolts on that. I'll put some spring washers on it as well. Now that's the engine part, bottom end put together there now, and the chain protector in place. So I'm now going to put on this cover here, which goes on over the dynamo. So it's the rotor cover. Now, as I said, there is actually a cover that goes over that, which I don't have, and it's held in place with these little rubber things like that, and that attaches on obviously to the other lug that will be on that cover, which is quite like those covers over there, I would assume, but I don't have it. Now I can't put the head on because I'm waiting on the piston to come, but I do have the rolling bearing roller, the correct one, and the pin for the piston. Give it a bit of lubrication. So that's that. And obviously I can't finish off that either. I could put on the bolts, but I'm going to hold off until I have the piston on. It's easier to put a piston on without those bolts in place. So until the piston comes, oh yes, I can put the clutch and belt section together, so I'll do that next. So now this is the belt drive, and I'm going to put it back together here. So the first thing to do is this washer that has two grooves goes on with the grooves facing out, like so. Then I've already put on the there's some sort of a clutch mechanism. I don't know how they're operated, but there's a spring motion on them. There are 6 ball bearings there, but I must actually take them off to put on this piece first. That piece goes on underneath there. So I've put on that piece there now from underneath, like so. This piece goes on top of that, and you have to line it up in such a way that this will sit down over that. Now, sorry, there's a washer goes on there as well, and then that. Okay, and that whole unit goes on like that. There. Then there's a kind of a clutch washery thing there, and there's actually a little metal band going around it which keeps it in place. And I've already put that on, and I'm not going to take it off again because it took me 20 minutes to put it on. So that goes on like so, like that. And these two nuts hold it in place. So I'll put those on there now. With an 8mm spanner. It's the 2 little nuts put on. Now, in actual fact, it's easier to put on the 2 nuts before you put this on. So if you want to do that, but I was able to prise it up and I was able to get it in. So the next thing to do now is to put it through on here. And it's better to actually turn it sideways for that. Like so. And the next thing to put on then is this cover. Like so. Pressure washer with 2 little lugs that go on there, like so. So the cover has been installed. This washer with the 2 little pins on it, the washer that goes outside that, and I've bent up the sides of it to hold the nut in place, and I've put on the nut and tightened it. So that's that, and I've just put a plug in there temporarily, and I've installed the new decompressor there, and the piston has arrived. So I can carry on now and install the rest of it. I got new points as well, just in case that they were required, and I got new clips for the piston. I also got a second set of points, and I got 2 condensers as well. So that's it for the parts for that. So now I can take off this head again and start putting on the gaskets and putting on the piston. Now I'm after putting in oil there into the crankshaft. Just after putting on the gasket there now with gasket sealant underneath it, and I'm going to put it on top now as well. Putting in the roller bearing there now. And the piston next. Put one of the restraining clips in there at one side. Just putting the piston pin through the roller bearing there now. Just put in the second circlip in there now. So now I can put on the four bolts, which are there. 4 bolts in place now, so I can put the head on. So I'll have to get the piston up through the barrel. I'll have to lubricate the barrel with some oil as well. Right, that's the barrel down in place. Let's put on the top gasket here now. When you're putting on the top gasket under the head, then that must there's a hole there on the barrel, so the gasket must be put in that way. That hole there, then it corresponds with the hole here under the decompressor, so it has something to do with letting air in to turn the engine off. That's the top head down in place, and I have 4 nuts here. I must just check to see if washers are required underneath. I can't remember if I took them off. They probably are. I'll check it on the parts list. I've just put on the plug in there, and I've put the plug cap on top of it as well because it was getting caught underneath it there. So, right, it says on the book that there is some sort of a washer there, number 13. Number 13 is Rondel Grower, which is French, so I'll have to translate it. Rondel Grower. So I translated Rondel Grower, and in French it's spring washers, so I put in the spring washers there, 1 in each bolt. And now I'm going to tighten down those nuts, put on the 4 of them and tighten them down. And it's quite similar to a Quickly engine, so the cylinder head for a Quickly is 14 to 16 foot-pounds, so that's what I'm going to torque them to. Now I forgot to put on the top engine mounts, so I've put them on there now, and I torqued it to 15 foot-pounds. I'm now putting on the carburetor gasket. I have to make the holes slightly bigger. That's the gasket in place there now, so I'm going to put another bit of gasket sealer on this and put that on there then. And there's 2 spring washers and 2 little nuts. So I'm putting on the 2 nuts and spring washers there now to hold that section in place. That's that section tightened in place there now, so I can now put the carburetor on, and there's a gasket has to go in there. It's one second until I find out what they are. It's a fibre washer. Yeah. Fibre washer. Right, I need two hands again. That's the carburetor now pushed onto that there, and I must tighten it with by tightening that bolt there. Now, on the book it shows one of these things attached here. Maybe it attaches to some part of the engine or the frame of the bike or something. So I'll put it onto it anyway. And when the guys are putting the bike back together, they'll know whether they should keep it or not keep it. But I would imagine it should go on. That's the carburetor finished onto it there now, and the rubber attached as well. So that's how it looks. Next thing to do now is to put the exhaust pipe on it, which is there. So now that's the exhaust pipe in place now as well, and that's the engine finished, ready for testing.